For 6 years in Syria, there's been a multi-way conflict between the incumbent Assad regime, Syrian rebels, ISIS, and the Kurds, with Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah supporting Assad, and the Gulf states, Jordan and Turkey, supporting the rebels. With America now directly joining the fray, the situation can only be described as a clusterfuck. Meanwhile, in the South China Sea, nations bicker over rocks and reefs like Fire Cross Reef, with nearby China, the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Taiwan all claiming sovereignty. So while millions of displaced Syrians flee the ongoing violence, migrating long distances to neighboring countries and other continents, China is going full bore on the island claiming, dredging and landfilling submerged reefs and turning them into inhabited islands, complete with military installations for those times you need to pop the trunk. You probably think these are separate issues, but hear me out. Countries are increasingly reluctant to accept refugees for fear of letting in radicals. With reports of sexual assaults, violent crimes, and terrorist acts, anti-immigration sentiments shouldn't be a surprise. On the other hand, China takes in no refugees and builds islands in the middle of the ocean in an attempt to legitimize its claims over surrounding ocean territory, valued for resources and shipping. So if they're going to build islands in the middle of nowhere, why not let in some refugees? I mean, what better place to give Syrians refuge? Well, okay, probably a lot of other places. But think about it. The refugees won't be able to harm anyone else. Ships can drop off bulk aid. In a quarantined environment, authorities can gradually identify and deal with potential radicals. And when peace is somehow restored, the Syrians can return to rebuild their country, opening up room for refugees of future conflicts. This is Zaatari, the biggest refugee camp in the world, situated in Jordan. It's a hodgepodge of temporary shelters built to provide temporary refuge. But with the length of the conflict and peace nowhere in sight, it has developed its own economy and has become a veritable city and will be for the time being. Now imagine it as an island and not a fenced-off desert. And instead of designing for months of use, let's design for semi-permanence. And let's add density so that the surfaces are easily reachable by all, as well as providing a real sense of a city. Modular shipping containers are an abundantly available candidate material. And given what we know about sea level rise, these islands will be eventually underwater, where the gradual oxidation of the structures will stimulate regrowth of the corals that once lined these reefs. Hopefully, by that time, we won't need refugee cities. But don't hold your breath. A typical townhouse configuration can use 4 20-foot shipping containers with stairs and a walkway. All building materials can arrive on site inside the containers. 2 discrete sleeping areas are upstairs, resting above living and dining spaces below. The street-facing container is purposefully bare to allow refugees to appropriate it to their liking, encouraging them to apply their skills towards servicing the needs of fellow refugees. They can set up their own business, find meaningful work, and achieve a semblance of normal life. And abundant sunshine and rainfall in the South China Sea makes self-reliance much more feasible. Solar panels collecting electricity and rainwater collection for potable water use can reduce aid demands. Whether installed immediately or at a later date, a bathroom on the lower floor makes use of the rainwater in conjunction with the kitchen. Plus, a composting toilet and a gray water system in the backyard can eliminate off-site sewage needs. It may also be possible for residents to grow their own food in the backyard. Assuming that each dwelling unit houses 5 refugees on average, and 72 dwelling units make up 1 city block module, and 334 residential blocks can fit within an island of 2 square kilometers, or less than 0.8 square miles. That's over 120,000 refugees on a single island. That still leaves room for blocks dedicated to aid services and recreation. Just by building one of these islands, China can go from ignorant bystander to becoming the 10th most generous host country to Syrian refugees, bumping Sweden off the top 10 list. Imagine the number of refugees that can have a home if China builds multiple islands. Conflicts are all over the place, and remedies are hard to find. The violence in Syria will not end anytime soon, and nobody is going to stand up to China's aggressions in the South China Sea since they make pretty much everything you own. But maybe they can be coaxed into doing some humanitarian good in exchange for some sovereign waters and billions of dollars of commerce. China comes out looking like a magnanimous benefactor while reaping the bounty of the sea, and innocent Syrians can escape their nightmare and live amongst themselves in peace, safe in the knowledge that they'll one day return home. 2 wrongs don't make a right, but if you can let one cancel out another, wouldn't you do the deal? Let me know what you think.